What's up, it's Marco, Sage of Soccer, and today I want to talk about the Generation Adidas Prospects in the upcoming MLS Draft. So if you don't know about the MLS Draft, it is typically filled with a bunch of seniors. However, there are a select group of underclassmen signed to Generation Adidas contracts and are allowed to leave school early, allowing these underclass heroes, I did this for a Sum 41 reference, to enter the draft early. These players are typically able to succeed a lot more as they're entering the league younger. Daryl Dike and Tajon Buchanan are two examples of this. That's not the only way to leave school. You can get signed to a homegrown contract or take your talents to Europe, but this is a very good way to get into the MLS, and these players typically find more success than regular draft picks. So this year, we have Generation Adidas Prospects. They're rumored right now. This list couldn't be final. Some of them could return to school. Some players could be added. But at the moment, we have rumored selections of Roman Celentano, a goalkeeper out of Indiana, Patrick Schulte, a goalkeeper out of St. Louis, Kipp Keller, a center back out of St. Louis, Isaiah Parker, a winger out of St. Louis. You gotta feel for St. Louis United. They're missing this draft class by 1 year. They could have had all of these players available. I think some of them were eligible for homegrown contracts too. You gotta feel for them. But yeah, that's it for the American players. And then for two internationals, you have Thor, Ulfarsson out of Duke, and Ousseni Bouda out of Stanford. So starting things off with Kipp Keller. He's a center back who may be the top prospect in the entire draft. He has good height, good physical abilities, and is talented on the ball. He looks like a defender who can immediately help MLS teams, and he was named to All-America squads, and he does look like a good prospect. Projecting him for the national team is tough. First, you have to see how his abilities would translate to the MLS level. I mean, being good on the ball in college and being good on the ball professionally are two very different things, and that's going to be tough to translate. And it should be said that there are defenders who were better than him this year, like named to higher All-American teams, but because he's listed as this guy, he's the Generation Adidas prospect, I believe that he does have the physical tools that project him as a good transition into the MLS. So I do feel like he will be able to find success. So in terms of a national team, he has a lot of work to even get called up. I honestly think his upside might be somebody like Henry Kessler, which, well, that's still a very good thing, like a Gold Cup medal, but that's not the highest ceiling, and you have to see how things go. I have to see how he handles the transition to the pro game, and maybe his physical abilities really stand out. Maybe he's really good on the ball, and he can make that jump to Europe, but at the moment, we just have to see. But at the moment, Kipp Keller looks like a very good prospect. Next, we got Isaiah Parker, also out of St. Louis. And I made a video putting together the top 100 American freshmen entering college for this past season, and I missed this guy, which really pisses me off, but at the same time, I can't be mad because he's a really nice prospect. I've constantly seen him described as dynamic, and I believe it. He's a really strong athlete with a good dribbling ability that has affected games. Even in the NCAA tournament, he was constantly affecting games, making goal contributions. Typically when you hear this type of player described, the next part is, I'm going to say, but his end product's not great. But Parker's been pretty good this year, picking up 3 goals and 7 assists. And with the MLS already calling him into the draft, his physical abilities have the ability to translate, and his goal contributions are pretty good, and I expect him to be a pretty solid player. And one thing that stands out above all else, especially when talking about things from a national team perspective, he's left-footed. We do not get left-footed players in this national team, and if they do, they're dual internationals. We don't have a single natural left-footed attacker, so if he is able to make this national team and become a great player, that's a huge asset right away. So that's something to keep in mind with Isaiah Parker. So projecting him is kind of tough. He's still a freshman, so you'd expect him to be a bit raw, and his end product should only get better, but it is tough to gauge how it'll translate. The MLS measurements aren't made public, so I can't give you like a 40-yard dash time or something, but he does seem like a good enough athlete. You have to see how his end product will translate to the next level. Hopefully he'll be able to keep it up, but again, that is tough when you're going up against top goalkeepers, top defenders every single game, so we're going to have to see, but it does look promising. One thing I do want to say as a bit of caution is this reminds me a lot of Jonathan Lewis when he was exiting college, which, I mean, he's still a national team player, but not ideal. But again, time will tell how Parker can turn out, and I'm really excited to see him play next season. Now on to the 2 goalkeepers, and it's kind of tough to give analysis for them. First, I'm not really sure why 2 goalkeepers were included in this list of 6 players, especially when the senior goalkeepers in this draft class aren't bad at all. I really have a hard time seeing them playing competitive games this season, but Yeah, just talking about them, it's kind of hard to gauge how goalkeepers will translate from college to pro level. The only things I can really say is that I've really liked Roman as a goalkeeper. He looks like a good prospect. He's pulled up some good saves for Indiana. At 6'3", he does have the size to be a good goalkeeper, and he could play with his feet in college. Though again, I can't tell you how it translates. Did Indiana like play with the system that could have limited how he was as a goalkeeper? Like, could he not use his feet as much as he wanted? I don't know. Or could he just falter under pressure a lot more? I don't know. It's tough to gauge how these guys will translate. With Schulte, he's similar, but at 6'6", and with experience at USA Youth International camps, he might have a higher ceiling, but at the moment I do believe Roman is better. So again, sorry I can't give too much detailed analysis on these guys, but it's tough to gauge goalkeepers with very limited film and a big transition coming up. So that's it for the American players, but the last video I did on this got about 200 more views than I thought it did, so I feel like I should touch on the international players. Now keep in mind with these players that should they fall in the draft, it's not due to their skill level, it's because teams might not want to spend an international slot on a draft pick. So just keep that in mind for the MLS draft itself. But first we have Ousseni Bouda coming out of Stanford. Bouda is a strong athlete who can play multiple positions up front. He's got the ability to press and is another top prospect who can immediately impact an MLS team due to his athleticism and versatility. Though it should be said that despite being a junior, he wasn't included on any of the All-American teams, and his production wasn't stellar at 5 goals and 9 assists. Certainly good, but not great at a college level. He does have all the tools that he needs to succeed in MLS level, but it's going to be a tough jump. And lastly, we've got the infamous Thor, Ulfarsson. He's known for mocking an opposing goalkeeper and then getting laid out, so it's nice to know that even in soccer, Duke players are hateable. But yeah, Thor is an imposing presence on the field. He's 6'1", very strong. He's picked up 15 goals this season in a tough ACC conference, and he looks like a strong target man. He could be a very dangerous player in the right team. However, he is a classic number 9, and there are a lot more dynamic players in this draft, and especially with him being an international player, it's tough to find the right fit for him. You have to have a guy willing to build a system with the target man, as well as have the international slot available. So, going to be tough to see where he ends up, but he definitely is a very talented player who could quickly succeed, and I can see him becoming an Iceland national team player in the future. You know, you knew he was from Scandinavia with his name Thor, but Iceland national team could be a fit for him. So that's it for all these players I've talked about. It's not the final list of players. Some of these guys may decide to return to college, or maybe the list will just end up being different. I personally would have liked to see guys like Ben Bender and Danny Flores make this Generation Adidas list, among some other players, but it's a strong group that hopefully will find success and maybe even positively affect the national team. So I'll talk about right now. See ya.